And one thing that you should have noticed is that exams used to come earlier than now. Let us look at the first question. Which of the following characteristics of living organism is defined as the ability to detect and respond to stimuli? Okay, so let us look at the 2018 paper, that is school certificate, that was written on 30 October 2018. And the first question here was, which of the following characteristic of living organism is defined as the ability to detect and respond to stimuli? So one thing I should tell you now is that it's very important they should go through the characteristics of living organism. So the one that is defined as such is the irritability or sensitivity, the ability to detect and respond to stimuli. The diagram below shows the two different cells, which feature is found in both the cells. Which feature? So, no doubt, the cell membrane. We do not have the cell wall in the animal cell. So this is the plant cell. This is the animal cell. So for the sake of preparation of paper 2, make sure that you know these and their differences. Then the central vacuole, no. The chloroplast, no. So the answer is A. A piece of plant tissue is transferred from the beaker of pure water into the beaker containing salt, containing 20% of salt solution. Which of the following correctly explains what happened in the experiment? So it was taken from distilled water. So this one is less concentrated when it is put in the 20% solution, which means the solution outside is more concentrated compared to the inside cell, and therefore it is going to lose water. So movement of water. Water is going to leave the cell, so not enter but leave. Then what happens? The volume of a tissue. So when water leaves, it decreases. So the answer here we are going for C as the answer. Okay. Then we continue to look at question 4. The diagram below shows an experiment on the digestion of protein in the egg albumin by protease. Protease was taken from the stomach of a human being. Now, if it was taken from human being stomach, it works well at an acidic pH. That is one thing should come to your mind. Which test tube will the protein be digested mostly? Look at this. The first part, egg albumin plus protease. Okay, let us see B. Egg albumin plus hydrochloric acid. C. Egg albumin plus hydrochloric acid plus protease. So here there's no protease, so no enzyme to digest. Here there's no, it's just protease, but there's no HCl. You know that the function of HCl in the stomach is to keep the pH at T suitable for the enzyme to act. So here there's no HCl. That's why we are saying the answer is not correct because the pH will not be acidic. Then 3, egg albumin plus hydrochloric acid and protease. This one looks like it. What is missing here? The enzyme. Then the other one, egg albumin plus hydrochloric acid, boiled protease. So here the problem, there's boiled protease. So boiled protease, it means it was denatured, so it cannot work. So therefore the answer we are going for C. I guess you've gotten a thing here. 5, different food sample were tested for nutrient content. The test results were recorded in the table below. Which food sample contained both glucose and oil? So Benedict solution tests for sugars. So those that have ticked, it means sugars were present. So different food sample were tested for nutrient content. The test results were recorded in the which of the food contain both glucose? So both glucose and fats. So both glucose, where there's Benedict solution, expect them to be ticked. So already these, we don't need them. Then what else are we looking for? Fats. Ethanol emulsion. So where there's fats, should be ticked. So since we cancelled out these, already these stand out. So butyrate should not be there, which is protein. This ethanol should be positive. Ethanol emulsion should be positive. Then iodine test should be absent. So the answer here is B. So the answer here is what? The answer is B. Question 6, the table below shows the amount of protein and fats in 100 grams of some food. Which of the food have the best value for bodybuilding? So bodybuilding are proteins that are involved. So you're looking for the one that has high protein. So we have this one with the 18 and this one with 18. What is that? Meat and the fish. So meat and fish, which is the D. So the answer here is what? Is the D, meat and the fish. Question 7. What are the effects of lack of magnesium? Now, magnesium is needed for chlorophyll. Okay. Nitrate is needed for proteins or amino acids. Okay, amino acid or protein in the growth of plants. So what are the effects of lack of magnesium ion and nitrate to plant nutrients? So lack of magnesium, leaves go yellow and the veins. Yes. So this is the only one that we have yellowing of leaves, unable to form enzymes. So the answer is A. It's as simple as that. Question 8. The diagram below shows an experiment to investigate photosynthesis. The flask containing leaf P has potassium hydroxide. So anything hydroxide removes what? Carbon dioxide. While the other one has the water. Water puts carbon dioxide. Okay. Now, after exposing the potted plants to sunlight for 10 hours, a leaf P, so leaf P is coming from where there's hydroxide. So here there was no carbon dioxide. Okay. It was tested for starch and had no starch, while leaf Q contained a lot of starch. What does it show? So here, when it was tested, become positive for starch. Then this one was negative. It was expected because carbon dioxide was absent. So a leaf cannot make starch without carbon dioxide. Yes, because photosynthesis cannot take place without carbon dioxide. It's one of the raw material. Okay. Question 9. What do we call the type of symbiotic relation in which one species benefits from another without either harming or benefiting that other species? This is what I said. You need to know about those symbiotic relationships. So that is called commensalism. That is called what? Commensalism. Which part of the tooth is the hardest? So the hardest part of the tooth is the enamel. And what is it made of? What material is it made of? So be able to comment. Put your answer in the comment section. Indicate the paper that you're answering and the question number. If possible, indicate also the question. What part of the tooth is the hardest? Then you put the answer. It will be very easy for me to look at it. Question 11. The diagram below shows part of the alimentary canal in human being. Which of the labeled part produces acidic juice? So this question, we've answered it at some point as well. So meeting this question should be very easy to answer. So you see the stomach. Question 12. The gaseous exchange in an insect is mostly achieved by diffusion. Mostly achieved by what? By diffusion. So the answer here is C. Okay, let us proceed. Yeast, warm water, and substance Z were put in the test tube. So yeast, warm water, and substance Z. So already here is respiration, and substance Z should be glucose. Okay, the apparatus was set up as shown. After a while, the lime water began to go cloudy. So respiration took place and the carbon dioxide was produced. What is substance Z? So substance Z is the glucose. Which of the following is not a myth about HIV and AIDS? It is transmitted by sexual intercourse, talking to infected person, hugging, casual shaking of hands. So the answer is C, sexual, unprotected sexual intercourse with someone who is HIV positive. Roots of acid ring were placed in the solution containing red dye as shown. What was the path of red dye after it had entered the root? So this question, you are going to answer it. So make sure that you answer this question and of course provide the question number and the year and of course the answer. Question 16. Which of the component of blood helps to absorb huge amount of oxygen? Is red blood cells. Red blood cells. Question 17. The diagram below shows the section through the human heart. What happens to the valve R and S as blood leaves the ventricles? Okay, what happened to valve R and S as blood leaves the right ventricle? Okay, so the right part of the heart is this side, left part. So as it leaves the ventricles going this side, this closes, so the valve S close, then the valve here opens as the blood, or to allow the blood to pass. So S closes. This closes because it prevents the blood from flowing back into that part. So S closes, R opens. So opens, closes. So the answer is C for 17. Okay. We continue. The diagram below shows the dialysis machine. So far we've answered 3 questions on the dialysis machine. So as you can see, blood in, blood out. What is the question? The substance in blood at X, okay, which should not be found in blood Y is Z. This question is more like repeated exactly as a question that we saw at some point, and the arrangement of answers as well. So the one that should not be present at Y is urea, because when the blood enters here, urea is removed from the patient's blood. As it come back or come out to the patient, urea is removed. That is how the dialysis work. But explore more on this part. Okay. The graph shows the changes in the blood sugar concentration during the period of rest and the light exercise. Which of the following could have caused the change in blood sugar level between P and the Q? So P and the Q. What has happened? The blood sugar level has gone up. Now look at this. Glucagon released by the liver, glucose released by the liver, glycogen released by the muscle, insulin released by the pancreas. So insulin reduces glucose level. Glycogen releases by the muscle. So glycogen cannot be released by the muscles. Glycogen itself cannot increase the sugar level because it is in a storage form. Glucose released by the liver. Okay. Glucose released by the liver. No. Glucagon released by the liver. So glucagon, when this is released, it convert. Why I'm going for this? When it is released, it convert the glycogen into glucose. But wait, is the glucagon released by the liver? That is a big question. So what is your answer on this particular part? Let me see your reasoning. Question 20, the diagram below shows the reflex arc. Which structure is the motor neuron? So the motor neuron is the one that is direct to the muscle. So look at the arrows. So the traveling of the impulse, so when it is going to this side, which means this is the sensory, which is A, then the relay, then of course the motor. So the motor neuron is here is what? Is B. We've looked at the structure of the brain at some point. The diagram below shows the section through the human brain. Which part controls balance and muscular coordination? Which one controls balance? So the one that controls balance is this one, which is the cerebellum. Okay, which is the cerebellum. So I said make sure that you know each of the parts of the brain. What part is this? What part is it? What part is this? What part is that? Okay, make sure that you know all this and their functions. Question 22, what is the function of the Eustachian tube in the ear? So the Eustachian tube is thus equalizing of pressure. Okay, so equalize air pressure on the eardrum and prevent the eardrum from bursting, especially during the rotational movement and all that. So the answer here is B. The diagram below shows the bone over the human arm. What are the question? What are the numbered parts? So which parts? So this is the scapula. This is the scapula. This is the humerus. Humerus. What about this one? So look at the answers. So for the answers, so far we have the scapula. That is for 1, we have the scapula, then humerus. So the one that is starting with a scapula, so this is no, scapula, humerus. Scapula, humerus. Now on this part we are stuck. Is it the radius or is it the ulna? So how do you know them? So these, make sure that you master them. So the one that is the, look at this. This part, is it inside or outside? So the one that is on the, is it on the outside part anyway? So that is what you call the radius. So the answer therefore here is C. How do you master them? You look at the one that is on the outside part, on the inside part. Which one is the radius? Which one is the humerus? I mean, which one is the ulna? Okay. Question 24. The following diagram shows the invertebrates in a glass container and exposed to light. At the beginning of the experiment, and of course after 30 minutes, which response is exhibited by these invertebrates? So they run away from light. So that is what we call negative phototaxis. Negative phototaxis. The diagram below shows the seedling. Which part is the plumule? So the one that grows into the shoot, which is A. Question 26. In addition to suitable temperature, which other factors are necessary for germination? Carbon dioxide under sunlight? No. Mineral ions only. Sunlight only. Water and the oxygen. So the answer is D. Okay. Question 27. Which of the method of propagation is illustrated? This is the runner. And this is the not first time we are answering this question. So where we are coming from, we had answered such a question. Question 28. The following diagram shows the longitudinal section of the flower. Which structure would pollen grain be deposited? So at A. The diagram below shows 2 fruits. What are these fruit dispersed? How are these fruit dispersed? So this one has a parachute. This one has wings. So all these is by wind. So wind, which is D. The diagram below shows the side view of a female reproductive system in which labeled part is zygote formed. So zygote is formed in B, where fertilization takes place. That is the fallopian tube. So please, you shouldn't just focus on the front view. Make sure that you know also the side view. As you can see, this is the ovary. This is the those tube. Okay, it goes to the uterus. Then of course down there. Question 31. The diagram below shows the calendar for March and April with 4 days shaded. Menstruation for the woman start on the 14th. So the menstruation start on 14th, during which of the shaded region was the lining of the uterus at its thickest. Now, the thickening of the uterus starts before menstruation. Okay, so we expect the days that are behind 14, not the one that are ahead. So it is not 15, it is not 24, it is not exactly 15, but it is somewhere there. Okay, because there's a process where it bursts, then blood starts coming out. The actual day of menstruation is 14, so expect it to be thickened before, or to be thickest before the actual date. So the answer therefore is A. But hey, what is your answer here? Question 32. Which method of contraception is the most effective in preventing the spread of disease such as syphilis and HIV? So we need a barrier method. And in this case, diaphragm method, no. That is a male condom. So this is the most effective. Oral contraceptive, no. Spermicide, no. So this is the most effective, which is B. Question 33. Which of the following is obtained when the diploid cell undergo mitosis? Oh, meiosis. So meiosis is half the number. Okay, this is meiosis, half the number. Now, During mitosis, genetically identical offspring or are obtained, genetically identical offspring. But during meiosis, they're not genetically identical in other words. So there's variation. So genetically different diploid, not diploid but haploid, genetically different haploid, genetically identical diploid, genetically identical haploid. No. So it's genetically different haploid cells. A pure breeding tall plant was closed with pure breeding dwarf plant of the same species. The resulting seeds were collected and grown to produce the next generation. What were the approximate percentage of the tall and dwarf offspring? So, pure breeding tall. Pure breeding tall, it means TT. Closed with pure breeding dwarf, which means TT, of the same species. The resulting were corrected and grown to produce the next. So, if this is closed, it is going to produce T. Then now next was closed. So you're going to have T. You're going to have what? T. Then this closed and that T. Then this and that. You're going to have T. So this is the ratio of 3 to 1. Now what is the question? What were the approximate percentage of tall and dwarf offspring? So if I look at this is 100%, third of 100% is 75. So 75 to 25. So dwarf 25, then 75. So the answer is B. What is the correct order of arthropods from those with the most legs to those with fewest legs? What is the order of organisms here? So have a look at also this under classification. So the order here is myriapods, crustacean, arachnids, and the insects. So D. The diagram below shows the experiment conducted to find out the proportion of one component of the diagram below shows the experiment conducted to find the proportion of one component in the soil. What component of soil was or is being investigated? So you have the soil there, 42 cubic centimeter soil, end of experiment. So mixture stirred. Then what happened? So look at this. This was at 30. Then when it was put here at 30, that was the initial of water. Then of course it went to 50. So 30, the soil covered the 30 part. Then the displaced water, you expected it to be what? So you expected to be 60 to double, but part of it was missing. So here what was being investigated is air. Air left there. There was air that was removed or bubbled out. What do you think is the answer to this question? Okay. During, dung beetles lay their eggs in the dung of plant-eating mammal like cattle. Both the adult beetles and their young stages eat the undigested food in the dung. Which of the following shows the feeding relation? So dung beetles lay their eggs in the dung of plant-eating mammals like cattle. Both the adult beetles and their young stage eat undigested food. So the undigested food in the dung is grass. It's not digested. So this is eaten by the cattle, also is eaten by the what? Dung beetles. Grass, cattle, dung beetles. If you say this, it means dung beetles eat cattle. If we say dung beetles, grass, so it means grass eat dung beetles. If we say cattle eaten by dung beetles, grass eaten or also eats cattle. So the answer here is grass is eaten by the cattle, then grass is eaten by the dung beetles. This eats the grass directly, this eats the grass from the animal. I don't know if you get that. Otherwise, the answer that we can go for here is the answer which is D. The diagram below shows the parts of a nitrogen cycle. Which of the processes labeled is nitrification? What is nitrification here? What is nitrification? Okay, so nitrification involves the conversion of ammonia to soil nitrate. So D is nitrification. The diagram below shows the position of a river where water sample were taken. So this is a river and water sample was taken from here. Now X and Y, direction of flow of or water flow. So water flows to this direction. Untreated sewage poured here. Then we have X, Y, YZ. Which graph best describe oxygen concentration? So at X and Y, there is higher oxygen concentration, but when it gets to Z and D, Y and Z, or what I'm saying is that at W and X, there's higher oxygen concentration, high oxygen. Why? Because water is freshly coming here. But the moment untreated sewage are introduced, here oxygen concentration reduces. So high oxygen concentration at X and Y. So this is not the one. High oxygen concentration at W and X. So this is not, because showing that there's less oxygen and it increases. Then high oxygen concentration at X and Y. Then it increases on Y and Z. No. So the only that is making sense is high oxygen concentration on X and Y. But of course on Z and D. Why am I saying X and Y? High oxygen concentration at W and X, then low oxygen concentration at Y and D, at Y and D, Z. So this one is one that is making sense. I guess we've gotten the explanation here. Question 40. Which of the following must be controlled to protect the habitat of endangered species? Decomposition, nitrogen fixation, pollution, rainfall. So what should be controlled is pollution. Okay,